Okay, so the bottom line is that you need a different cell for this thermophotovoltaic conversion, and cells from Earth won't work in a different planetary system. Okay, so if you understand one, you understand the other statement as well. Now, what I want to do now is what I find very interesting, and at least I read a lot about it. If you read journals about it, right? So, what are the new ideas, right? So, everybody wants to go to this third generation of photovoltaic. That's typically called efficiency of greater than 50% at a cross point of costing less than costing almost the same as current silicon technology, but achieving an efficiency of greater than 50%. Right. So, what are the ideas which are around there? And this is a discussion we'll continue in the next class as well. But I want to describe some of them today, and the rest of them I'll cover in the next class next week. Right. So, some of these ideas are: reduce the thickness of the silicon, so make an ultra thin cell. Right? Use this thing called micro concentrator. And I'll talk to you, this idea of sliver cell, spherical cell, quantum dots, intermediate band gap. A lot of fun, just to understand these concepts. You have enough background now to appreciate these new ideas. Okay. So this is the very first idea. Both the companies we heard from, Alta as well as Solexel, they use this concept. So remember, the cost or the highest energy consumption in making the solar cell happens even before you start making the cell. It happens when you make the wafer, right? So the idea is to reuse the wafer, and this is one of the techniques of doing so. You start with a wafer, essentially pattern it, either pattern it lithography or pattern it by some means, by using some random process, and you create these these pits into your silicon. Now what you do is you deposit material on top of these on top of this corrugated substrate, and since this the starting template is still crystalline, it will still grow out to be a nice quality because you're starting from a crystalline substrate. So when you look back again, it will look nothing happened, but deep inside it are essentially these pores or these holes which have been left into the system because you made it porous before. And now what you do is essentially once you anneal the system, all these pores, they like to bond with each other. They like to essentially create this cavity which forms below this material, right? So it was known to be a problem before. Like if you have oxygen implanted in your substrate and you anneal it, these oxygen form clusters. Similarly, if you have air and you try to anneal it, these air try to form these clusters. So they'll form this cavity, and what you then do is actually lift off this thin piece or this thin layer of semiconductor which is below, which is above, and you reuse this template. So you can use this same wafer multiple times, right? And so you're not incurring the energy cost which would be involved to essentially curve and size these wafers. At the same time, you're using a much thinner material, so you're reducing your substrate cost. So there are many players which are many startups in this game now. There's Solexel, there's Alta, there's another Bay Area company called 1366 Solar. Does anybody remember what 1366 was? Huh? No. What? Remember, where did you encounter 1366 watt per meter square? Did we describe that number somewhere? So 136 is the energy contained in like AM 1.0 spectrum. So they've named the company the energy in the solar spectrum. But this is essentially the main idea of making these ultra thin cells. That is what most of these companies are trying to exploit in one way or another. More fancy approach, which is again being exploited by some people, is to essentially take this wafer and essentially pattern it into these layers. and then do a lift off of the material in between. So you will essentially lift it off so that you make these two cells instead of one. And then there are some neat ideas which people have played around, so that you have look at this cell. So it has this N plus region over here, and you have this P plus region at the back. So remember, we have these all when you did your project. I think one of the problems you must have faced was to essentially take the strings from one cell and connect it to another cell, and how hard it was to connect all of them in series, right? So one of the things that people try to achieve over here is essentially make this P plus contact, and try to make it at the end of the cell. So now you can have multiple of these small cells, and you can just place them on side by side with these things connected. So yeah, that's the intrinsic region. So see over here, so essentially they have now everything has a P plus contact which is at the top, and you can connect a lot of them in parallel. So this technique was actually developed by John Rogers group in Illinois, but it's used by a lot of people nowadays. It's used by a few companies as well. So here's one company which uses it. It's called Semprius, and it's based in North Carolina. So essentially it uses these what's called these micro cells. So it takes these 3-5 cells and essentially make them very small chips, and it lifts them off and essentially places them, it lifts them off from the wafer and places them onto this another substrate. And it uses these 3-5 base cells and uses a very high concentration on these cells as well. But since they're so hot, the heat dissipation problem now it becomes much more easier, because you don't have a very large current density, you have a lot of material surrounding each cell. So it uses this contact printing approach. Right? So okay, this is something I had asked you at the beginning of the course as well, right? That if I have a cell, does it make more sense to make the light incident from the junction side, or does it make sense to make it incident from from a side which is perpendicular to the junction? And initially, if you remember, we had discarded this idea, saying that we would have this very large cell and the junction would be at the very end of it, right? So by the time the carriers reach here, they will recombine, because it's such a high aspect ratio, it's such a thin cell, and the junctions are at the very end. But now let's revisit this idea. Remember this, we talked about that usually you make this light incident from the side where you have junction. So whatever is absorbed in this junction is collected with a very low quantum efficiency. So wouldn't it be nice if I make it incident on this direction and then separate them out? So now, since we are talking about new and crazy ideas that people have been trying, so let's revisit it, how we can design a cell which can work in this way. And the idea is called the sliver cell. So here's the design. Okay, so I form a planar cell just like I would form a normal cell. So there would be, I would essentially form a P plus junction at the top, or sorry, N plus junction at the top, right? And then I'll form a P plus junction at the bottom, right? But now, instead of just making one cell, why not essentially cut it down into these small slivers? Okay. So now essentially I have these thin, these wafer thickness maybe was 300 micron, right? And I have cut these small sliver, each being 50 micron, right? So I have a cell which is essentially the thickness of the starting substrate, that is 300 micron this way, 50 micron this way, and I have a large number of them. So shown here is one such panel, and you can see these individual cells which are hundreds of microns long and 50 micron by 100 micron kind of a cell, right? and you know, this is one person holding them in his hand, and it's actually being pursued. It was pursued by a few companies. I want to show you a video, and then you know, we'll discuss the pros and cons of this technology. Okay, so let me. So this is a marketing video, so of course they will only talk about advantages. You get some idea. I'll post the rest of the video on the site so you can watch them. But let's just discuss what would be the pros and cons. Right? So what would be advantage of such an approach? Actually, you got some advantages mentioned over there. Right? So they mentioned improved shading. But what would be the disadvantage of such an approach? It what? Okay, so basically you're saying the thickness is not enough to absorb, like, you know, if I make this just 50 micron, it's not enough to absorb all the light, right? So if I want to absorb the light, I'll essentially, you know, texture it. So I can texture, what these systems actually use is they don't use pyramidal texturing because they don't have enough volume to, you know, make these pyramids. So they do this acidic texturing where you essentially, you know, just make it the surface rough. Okay. So maybe I'll, you know, texture it, put an anti-reflective coating, try to bounce the light around multiple times. So maybe one way I can avoid that, but that comes with a challenge. If I want to essentially trap light in a very thin cell, right? What becomes more important? Series resistance is one thing, but think of in terms of, you know, what you did in your problem set when you were doing your absorption coefficient of silicon is going to be low, right? So I need more and more passes, right? But so whenever you make, like, you know, what you're trying to do is essentially take a wafer, right, and cut into these small slivers and place them side by side, right? So you're trying to maximize your surface area. I mean, in one way you're maximizing your surface area, right? But what happens when you maximize your surface area? What becomes more important? Surface recombination, right? So you need very good surface recombination velocity. If you want to design such a system, you need like surface recombination velocity of less than 5 centimeters per second, and that's very hard to achieve. So these cells, Ben was right, like they never absorb the red part of the spectrum. It's very difficult to absorb that spectrum, and again they require very high surface recombination velocity, very low surface recombination velocity, because you have a much larger surface area now, or you have a much larger surface to volume ratio now, right? So all these 2-3 companies that I have mentioned over here, they all went bust. None of them, was able to ever achieve efficiency of more than 13-14% of their cell. But nonetheless, it's good to look at these ideas. You might think of all these things that we discussed, and so before you start writing a business plan of it, just see what other people have done about it. Right? So a good advantage that we saw was essentially you have these multiple redundant parallel connection, right? Because you have these small cell, you can connect them in parallel. So your shading losses essentially get minimized. So you only lose the percentage which gets shaded. Versus if you have a series connection of a lot of these cells in a string, then even if one of them gets shaded, because these are 16 or 12 or 36 are series connected, that whole string goes back, right? So in these kind of panels, you only lose the percentage that you are shading. So for something which you are placing on the side of a building which has a tree nearby, right, it may still be a good option.